Hello, welcome back to Our Queer Experience. Today, we have Miss Patti Edwards. Andre, tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah, so for long-time listeners, and even new listeners, you might have heard me talk about this guy I dated last summer and kind of what that meant, and having to reconnect with him more recently for help with a school project that's led to many new doors being opened. One of which was learning more about his mother, who has gone through this whole journey of going from being really confused and perhaps angry to more accepting of him and what it could mean to be a Christian who's gay. And so she's come to join us to talk about this conversation and kind of her journey. We're so happy to have you. So welcome, Patti.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
We want to thank you for coming on because, kind of talking about a journey like this is not always the easiest thing to do. So we really want to thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It took me a while to get here, so.
So I guess let's start off with when did he tell you that he was gay, and what was your first reaction?
In about February of 2015, he told us he was bi, and we were sitting down actually after church in one of the classrooms, me and his dad, which is my husband, and told us that he was bi and asked us if we could look at the scriptures with him to untangle them and see what they say. And I'm the vocal one of the two, and I looked at him, I said, no, I don't have to study the scriptures. I know what they say. And I just shut him down, so poor guy. And then I saw all of the struggle he went through on his own. He was away at school, which was only 30 minutes away, but he was still lived at school and was there. And then in June, he called me and said, I'm going to go forward at church and tell the church about this. I feel like I really need to, and I'm tired of hiding, and I'm not bi, I am gay. And I said, I know you're going to go forward. He goes, how do you know? And I said, because the Spirit told me a week ago that you were going to call me and tell me you're going to go forward, and I understand. We'll be here for you. If you want Dad to stand up there with you while you tell the congregation, he will stand up there with you. And so it was it was around the week before the 15th. I only know the 15th because my daughter got married on the 15th. So it was the week before she got married, he came forward at church and told everyone that he had same-sex attraction. So I know it's hard to use the G word when you first come out. So that is when he went public with it that way, and when it really sunk in that he was gay, not bi. When your child's bi, you're like, oh, I have hope.
Yeah.
And then was there another part of your question?
Yeah. So when it went from you knew for sure that it was gay and not bi, and he kind of came out to the whole church like that, how did that feel for you? Were you angry? Were you happy? Were you sad?
Well, we have a church of about 80 to 90 people that were there, and they're all pretty close friends, and nobody had a clue. And they received him so well. When somebody comes forward, what we do is everybody that feels comfortable gets up and gathers and circles around them, and we just lay our hands on him and pray. And we have an elder get up and pray. And so we did that, and nobody was visually grossed out or anything about him, because we started this church, my husband and I did, with another couple. And so we've been there since the day. We've been there, not recruiting, that sounds really bad, but inviting these people, and they've grown up with my kids since my son was in 4th grade. They've known him, and a lot of my friends said, he's still Hunter. It's okay, Patti, he's still Hunter. And so they did really well. But then he left right away to go to Europe, to Italy actually, for 2 months, I think. And so he was gone. And then it was never talked about again. And even when he came back and visited, he's like, a couple of people would ask me how he was doing, and with his same-sex attraction, they thought that maybe him coming forward would heal him of that. Because obviously they don't understand, because I didn't understand either at the time. And they were always kind to him, always loving to him. But after that, I always felt like I had this spotlight on my head. I'd be sitting in church, and I felt like I had this spotlight shining down on my head, like this is the mom of the gay son, I don't know if I was making that up in my mind, because you're never the same after that, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Can you
good
tell us
now.
a bit more about what you mean by that?
But you're never the same after that?
Yeah.
Well, in my speech, I gave let me go to that. I gave one last thought to parents from Chrissy Kelly. Can I tell that? Can I cite that part? Okay, so this is most parents. And Chrissy Kelly says, I thought of my parents growing up. What if they wished I was something else? What if they wished I was someone else every single day? What if my husband wished I was taller? There is a child that I had, not the child I dreamed into existence. This is the child that God gave me, and by golly, we are going to celebrate them exactly the way they are. That day, those daydreams had to stop. Let go of what you expect and embrace what you have. And so when Hunter came out to us, all my dreams of grandchildren, a daughter-in-law, were dashed away. And so we went through a mourning period. I really believe every parent goes through a mourning period when their child comes out to them, because of the dreams that you had for them. A lot of them have to change, and you have to learn to just love the child the way they are.
Sure. How long did that take for you? Like that mourning period, how long did that last for you?
Poor Hunter. He would get so frustrated at me because, I guess maybe I had a look on my face, I don't know, for me, the mourning period didn't take as long as it did for my husband. For me, it probably, and the morning time that I went through, I went pretty fast, maybe just a couple of months through that. And he took a lot longer. He probably took 8 months to go through that. And I have a really close relationship with Hunter, and very open, and questions are good, and in talking about it, we do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that's why I was able to get through it faster.
So even through that mourning period, you and him stayed really close to one another.
Yes. Yep. And, I remember one time he took me to the tea, and I didn't even want to drink any. It was that special tea with the tapioca in the bottom of it. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, bubble tea.
Yeah, he was like so excited about it. Come and get this, Mom. You got to try this. And I was so upset, not with him, but just with everything. When he came out to me, my mind would bounce back and forth. It's okay, it's not okay, it's okay, it's not okay, it's a sin, it's not a sin, it's a sin, not a sin. It bounced back and forth every second. And then maybe a week later, my mind maybe it only bounced back and forth every 5 minutes. And then as time went, it would bounce back and forth less and less. But at this time, when he took me to go to boba tea, we were talking about it. And I'm like, Hunter, I just don't know what to do about some of those scriptures. I don't know. And he's like, but Mom, I don't have a depraved mind. The Romans one talks about he turned them over to their depraved mind. He's like, I'm not any of those lists of sinners on there. Why would God turn me over? And I'm like, you're so right. And even at that point, I was still in mourning. I couldn't eat. But we sat there, and he just let me hash it out loud, not at him, but just my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And made me look at it logically, too. Take some of the emotion out and look at the logic.
Can you tell us more about that? Like, what does the logic look like for you?
Yes, the logic is, you look at the Roman scripture, and it talks about these people were this really bad stuff they were doing this really bad stuff, like really bad sins, like they all have different levels, which is not right. But anyway, I mean, then they had depraved minds, and God turned them over to their depraved minds. And when he said, Mom, what about me is this list of sins? Nothing. And I don't have a depraved mind. Look at this logically. And then also, when you see the pain that your child is going through, like Hunter, he had disgust for himself. He had a lot of pain. He had a lot of loneliness. He had a lot of fear. And, I raised my son from birth. I know him, and I know that when you sit logically and look at this, what person would put themselves through this on purpose? No one. What person would put themselves out to be rejected by their parents on purpose? No one. That is the craziest thing you will ever hear of humankind, to put themselves out there to their parents to be rejected. How in the world could anybody choose that? Nobody will. You've got to think logically. Not even an animal will put themselves out to be rejected, let alone a human. So that's what I mean by logic. Wow. A lot of things I talked about in my speech were, Christians, we have to judge people by their fruit. And so when we were going through that, when he was coming out to us, and the fruit we had was fear and pain and rejection and guilt. And we had to turn that around and once he came out to us and he was able to work through a lot of that pain, and after me, I guess, coming around to looking logically at it and reading some of these books and talking with some professors, that helped me a lot to understand that. And I don't have all the answers, but I do know that the number one thing talked about in the Bible is love. And your fruits are talked a lot about in the Bible, and you look at healthy fruits, and what we were, all this fear and stuff was not healthy. And to be able to work through all of that and come out healthy on the other end, where Hunter was finally accepting himself, not discussing with himself. He, found the love of Christ and the love of God through all of that. And to see, a lot of times I had to stop thinking, well, what about, and look at his fruit. Once his fruit got healthy again, and look at that and know that he has a heart for God. We can't judge anybody on anything but their fruit. Yeah.
What are they producing? And just a clarification for our listeners, I met Patti a couple of weeks ago when she was giving a speech at Hunter's University during a special group meeting they have to talk about these kind of issues. So that is to what she is referring. So I have a question for you, Patti. You said that it took you about 6 months or so, and it took your husband about 8 months or so. What was it like in this 2 months difference when you had kind of come around, but your husband was still struggling?
So what took me 6 months was my mourning period. So that didn't mean it took a lot longer Hunter had to start with me with my mind before he even came out as gay. He had to start with me really about the Bible and learning that the Bible is not a book of rules of you can do this and you cannot do that. A Bible is a book of stories that we need to read about and learn how people interacted, and some of it's political, some of the Bible's political, and was written, yes, it is God breathed, but we all go, what does God breathe mean? You know, you could even ask the scholars, what does God breathe mean? They're like, right? Yeah. We don't quite know what that means, but yes, I know they had God's influence when they wrote it, but we have to remember they were still men that wrote it and still had customs and still had certain people. They weren't writing it saying, oh, this is going to be in a Bible someday. They were writing their stories down that they heard or they went through, or they made their own stories because other religions had their stories, and while, you know, we have to have our own too to go with those. But so Hunter had been working on my heart and mind about the Bible for 3 years before he came out to us as gay. So I had to look at things. I was looking at the Bible differently by that time, not just being a do and do not set of rules. It's okay to ask questions about things going on in the Bible, and a lot of denominations teach that it is that if you ask questions, you don't have faith, but that's not what's going on there. So I was able to learn that. For the part when he came out to us and his father was in mourning longer than me, we really, I didn't talk with Doug much about it because he was pretty angry. He was in the angry phase for quite a while. And he would say, I cannot talk about it because I'm going to say things that are hurtful, and I don't want to do that. And so I respected him for that space. But eventually, I had to start saying things a little bit here and there of what I read. Like I would say to him, Doug, where in the Bible does it say being gay is a sin? Do you read that anywhere in the Bible, that being gay is a sin? I don't think so. I don't think that's anywhere in the Bible. And so it's just tiny things like that I had to bring up a little bit at a time to have him think on. And then also, one thing is when a person comes out to their parents, I know that there is sometimes anger in there. And then a lot of times they'll come out to their parents and then they'll leave. Like they'll go off to college, or they'll go off and they have their career, so they go live in their own place and have their own job somewhere else, or they have to leave. But when a child comes out to their parents, no matter what age it is, and then they go, and when the child's gone, well, that's not in the parents' thoughts. It is in the parents' thoughts, but it's not right there in front of the parent to be staring at in the face every night because their child's not there. So a lot of times when your child is gone and you don't hear about it anymore, you think maybe it was just a passing phase and that they're not really gay. But if the child can have a chance to be with the parent more and bring it up a little bit at a time when you're with them, that can help the parent learn. Because a lot of parents, they just close everything off. They just shut all the doors, lock themselves in that closet their child just came out of, and don't grow and don't learn. The child just came out, right. Parents go back in, go right in. Because it hurts too bad. But yes, it might hurt a little bit for that child to talk with their parents about it, but they've got to. You've got to talk a little bit every time. Find something, tell a little bit of your story every time to your parent, a little bit different part of your story to that parent. Because I know Hunter would tell me, he would tell this group his story, that group his story, this person his story. And I would say, what did you tell them? Because he doesn't change his story, but there's different things that he'll bring out in different situations. Or when you're faced with another situation, you'll remember another feeling of something else. And then I'm like, Hunter, tell me your story. even though I was here and he told me, and he lived at OC still, but I still needed to hear it. And I think parents need to hear their child's story.
So how do you help in how? I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. What would you say to parents who are struggling to listen to their children's stories?
Okay, let me look here. First of all, you know that child. That is the child you raised. You know their heart. You know their gifts. You know their weaknesses. Listen to their story. I hope that there's not blame in there for the parent. There could be, the child could have anger.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a human being, and no human being will ever want to go through rejection. So they're not doing this to hurt you. Don't take it personally. They need to share this part of you, and so maybe if you can't hear it face to face, can they email it to you? Can they do it on Facebook Messenger privately to you? Where you can watch them? Can they write it down and you can read it? I'm trying to put myself back in that. When Hunter came out at church, my heart was just wrenched because of the pain I saw him going through. Normally, when the church has an invitation, that's at the end of the sermon, and he had actually gone up to our preacher and said, I really need to talk to the church about something. I don't know how he said it to him, and I don't think I can wait to the end. And so our preacher's like, okay, I'll let you do that at the beginning. And so our preacher got up there, and we had our announcements and everything, and we had our opening prayer, and he said, Hunter wants to get up. He has something that he really needs to share with us. And Hunter was just sitting there sobbing. His whole body was shaking. Oh. And there's just nothing I could do to take that pain away. And so he got up there, and it was the hardest thing to do, to watch my child go through that much and not be able to take it away from him. And so that helped me see the son I've always known. Just like my friend said, Patty, he's still Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember, your child is still your child. This is a child. They're not doing this to disobey you. They're not doing this to rebel against you. They're not doing this to rebel against anybody or God. So if you can just remember the humanity of your child.
That's beautiful.
While they're coming out to you.
And I guess on the other side of things, we have quite a few listeners that their parents are probably still in that mourning stage. And there's a lot of conflicting information for how you should deal with that. So as for our listeners who may be on the child side of that, what advice would you give them for helping their parents through that situation with patience?
That is a really good question. Let me see. Yes. Okay, so first of all, the child really needs to have a backup. You have no clue how your parents are going to react and how long they're going to react that way. And so they need to have backup support for them. If that means emotionally, somebody to talk to, somebody's shoulder to cry on, somebody, if it means financially, as in somewhere to live, help them out for a while. If that means advice, I might have already said that, but yes, they definitely need to have a backup before that happens. And then you can't rush somebody through their mourning process, but I think that you can't stay silent. If you can talk with them a little bit at a time without getting hurt physically, or I don't know how much emotional hurt you can take from your parents, but if you can get through, if you can put up with a little bit of emotional help, some of it is just too damaging that they just need their space for a while, and they need to learn boundaries. That's something, there are books out there for boundaries that are really good to read. And but if they can talk a little bit each time with their parent about it, so that their parent knows that this isn't going away, but your child still loves you and cares about you and wants to continue this relationship. No child is going to stay in a relationship with parents, friends, or family that is going to constantly hurt them or reject them. And so I hope the parent knows that, this is kind of going off subject of what you asked me, but if a parent keeps rejecting their child, they've got to know that there's going to be a point where their child's not going to come back to get rejected again. Do you want to continue a relationship with your child and with their future, or do you want to be done with them? Ask the parent that. I don't, how in the world can a child ask their parent that? I don't know.
Yeah. But it sounds like, Bruce?
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think that's very well said. Is just communication between child and parent is so important. It's not maybe comfortable, but it's necessary. And I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you so much. We're starting to run out of time. I hate to cut off because it's such an fascinating and important story that you're sharing with us. Thank you so much for coming on and for talking to us. I don't mean to wrap. Andre, did you have anything else to ask before I take over here? I'm sorry.
I just want to thank you again, Patti, for coming on. I really appreciate it. I truly
thank you.
As both given the situation and just as someone who is experiencing family, I really appreciate you coming and sharing your perspective.
Thank you. I just want to help out there. I see how the parents have rejected their child. I just wow, that really hurts my heart.
Yeah. And Patti has also given us a great book list for you and stuff you can share with your parents that we'll be posting online and linking to as soon as we have that up. So be on the lookout for that. Bruce?
Yep, absolutely. It will be in the link of the description of this podcast. Check it out. We'll probably try to link specifically to the Amazon pages, so you can go on, check it out. Most of them, if you have Amazon Prime or Kindle or whatever, they'll probably be free or discounted. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Patti. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.